This video is for business leaders who want to invest in themselves, or entrepreneurs who want to invest in themselves but question the effortless miracle products they often see advertised online. So watch to the end of this video for tips about how to protect yourself from dopamine dealers, which is the title. This is Dopamine Dealers Part 2, and a recommended video about ways to influence ethically, because the persuasion techniques they often use are not inherently unethical. They just happen to use them in an unethical way. So this is part 2 of a multi-part series. I don't know how long it's going to go. Part 1 was about the neuroscience of MDMA and that experience and how it parallels the dopamine experience often used when they use persuasion psychology the way they do, but unethically rather than ethically, which is entirely a choice. It can be used equally ethically as it often is unethically. So it's really not necessary to understand this episode. You don't have to go back and watch the first one. They are mutually reinforcing, but you don't have to watch the first, though you can after this. So stay here, watch this one, watch the other one if you want. If not, it's totally good. So the pattern between dopamine, the way sales is done that's manipulative and uses dopamine, is very similar to that MDMA experience. It's shockingly parallel. So first of all, you want to call them out by asking them a basement question, and that is, what percentage of your students make at least X amount of money? What percent of your students get Y results? And be very specific. Use a specific number, which is your basement, for how much you're willing to pay for this course. It might be $5,000, but if you can't make $5,000, you've just lost money. That's trivial for some people and a large amount of money for others. So you decide what your basement ROI is and ask them that question. Or, what percentage of your clients get minimum acceptable results per month? When they evade the question, and they will if they're unethical, and they may even if they're ethical, because that's kind of an uncomfortable question, but does this product really work or not? If it works, there's no good reason. Now, if they say anything like, oh, well, we don't track that, then you should probably click away or run away. And if you don't, ask them why they wouldn't track a metric which proves the effectiveness of their product. That's pretty shaky for them not to want to record that, unless they're obviously hiding something. So if you haven't yet run away, ask them this: how long does it take for the typical or average student to reach that percentage? So, $5 or $10 or $100,000 a year, whatever it is, doesn't really matter. How long did it take them to achieve that result? And if they won't tell you, again, you've got information to go on. So I want to start with a caveat, and that is that some dopamine dealers definitely sell valid products, but they're often incomplete and mixed with pseudoscientific pop psychology crap. And these are some of the most famous self-development gurus in the world do this. I'll get into more specifics later, but I won't precisely name their names. So, unlike dopamine spikes, which tend to be short-term, the serotonin tends to be longer-term. So when somebody takes the MDMA, they get this. It releases serotonin, which is what gives you the high. In the case of dopamine, it's short-term, so they keep wanting to spike you on it because they need to sort of keep that excitement going. So, in many ways, as I said, they parallel very much with the MDMA trip and also the come down, which that you want to know about, go into the other one and find out. So it's true that if somebody offers you this effortless path to $5,000 a week and you buy it, when you buy it, you get a dopamine hit. The next thing they'll do, maybe you haven't bought it, but you could have, and if you did, you get a dopamine hit. Then what they'll do after they've sort of got you interested, they'll tell you their rags to riches story. They were just like you before they discovered this secret. Another dopamine hit. then they bring out their most successful student. Another dopamine spike. They keep liking to do this, and of course they're giving you the exceptional results, which are usually rare. Now remember, have they told you the percentage? I have yet to see one. I know another one who's claims to be Christian, and maybe they are, but I'll tell you, they didn't want to answer the question, and therefore I didn't buy their product. It works very well. So if you pull the trigger and pay for the course, as I said, you get a dopamine hit from that. You feel as if life will never be the same again. This time it's different. You can just feel it. You know it is, but it's really just the dopamine. And you've been here before. It's not fate or providence or good judgment or destiny. It's dopamine. So the same neurotransmitter that we're talking about, dopamine, is associated with all types of addiction, from gambling to heroin. So that tells you how powerful this can be. So you're excited and certain of success. So you decide you're going to buy it. Welcome to the bonus material. We're already here. I'll continue the remains of this story in the next episode. That's another dopamine trick. By leaving you with an incomplete or unresolved story, it's a cliffhanger, you get a dopamine hit when you find out. It's like, I want to know the next part. I'm not going to give that to you, sorry. At least I'm telling you when I'm doing it, right? And this is free, so it gives you an idea of how this stuff really works. So one of the best ways to see if they're shady dealers is to call them out on the basement questions that I talked about. And don't let them get away with it. Don't let them ignore it. If they ignore it in the chat and they won't, or cut you off or something else, get back in and do it again. I'm not talking about looking for trouble. I'm talking about why would they not answer legitimate, honest questions that you would ask about making any other normal purchase. But they actively, typically, will totally not allow you to ask these questions, which to me is a big red light. So it's best on live video like I'm doing with you, like literally just calling them out on it. If you can't do it in the chat, and do it until they kick you out, or you get your answer. And if it looks like they're going to kick you out, it's like, why aren't you answering this question? Does anybody else think that's kind of shady? Again, call them out. If they're legit, they have nothing to hide from. But if they're not, and many of them aren't, then they do have something to hide from. And now you've seeded doubt in all these other people who may themselves start to ask those questions. And again, the legit people don't need to worry about this because they're legit. So if they answer, oh, well, no problem, you know, if you don't like it, we have a 60 or 30-day guarantee. Then you ask, how long does it normally take for your average student to get the results? Now, if the guarantee is shorter than the results, and it almost always is, this is a sign you should probably walk away, unless you're willing to consciously take that risk, knowing the money is spent and you cannot get it returned. If it's such a damn great product, legitimate dealers should give you at least a year, if not an unconditional forever guarantee, because you're going to be so delighted. Why not do that if they really mean what they say and they can deliver, provided you put in your work? So that's really it for this episode. We're already coming to the end. The recommended video is Crush It Club 203, an episode I did about a week ago, 10 days ago actually, and it's Persuade Positively. I will put the link right there and in the description. This has been Crush It Club 213, Dopamine Dealers Part 2, The Basement Question. My name is Tim B. Green. Bye for now.